Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I begin each video by closing my eyes and tuning in so that I may access a deeper, more profound state of awareness. It's a practice that I've learned related to self-hypnosis and meditation. Today, I'd like to talk about our right and ability to curate our own lives. And specifically, I'm meaning the people that are in our lives. This is a very sensitive and tender topic. I'll speak for myself in that I have gone through this process of removing people from my life. And that includes all of my family. I've been working through the nuance of that, of how to be at peace with it, because it's very hard, it's very difficult and painful. I don't want to hate them. I accept the fact that from their perspective, I may be in the wrong. But this is my life, and I need to do what I can to be in integrity with myself. So even though I have complaints and judgments that I feel are rational, I do want to let go of them and not have them be this kind of thorn in my side, this painful wound that never heals. I think that really there is a benefit to disconnecting from our birth family. For one, I'll start with that specifically, because in a culture where there's no rituals of coming into adulthood, there's no puberty rites, then we can end up overly relying on our parents and our family members. And I think what can happen is a resentment. And this is evident in many adolescents who act out and rebel. And that is a normal thing, this impulse to push away from our families and find our own identities. And in that struggle, we claim our own territory. We become our own person. However, this world is very difficult and can be quite harsh. And so there may be a tendency to cling to our parents and our family members for support. That will ultimately undermine us. I'm almost 50 years old, and I feel I've had somewhat of a protracted, drawn-out adolescence. Not because I've wanted that, because I've been pushing away from my family since I was a young teenager when I left home at 17 years old. I instinctively knew that I wanted to chart my own path and be my own person. But also I was struggling with mental health issues and challenging situation in my community and school. So I left my small town and moved to a bigger city. And I think that was good for me, although I was very young and it was hard. It was very difficult. I did come back to live with my parents a couple times for short periods, but each time I remembered how much I wanted my independence and how I didn't like the way that my parents treated me. Over the many years, I tried to have relationship with them, but again felt like they were not treating me in a way that felt good. It didn't feel respectful. And even though it hurt my heart, recently, over the past couple of years, I've completely removed them from my life. There is a great pain in this. I think it's because there was no ritual, there was no initiation, no formal initiation into adulthood. And so I've been struggling with that all along, feeling caught between being on my own and because I haven't had children, because also I feel it relates to the fact that I'm gay, and finding a partnership that has been healthy, that is healthy, has been difficult. And so I've been mostly on my own. So again, there's been this kind of lost in the wilderness and feeling isolated and alone. Yet, I have discovered the benefits of that in the spaciousness of isolation and solitude. I have gone through many dark nights of the soul. And in that, I have learned a lot about myself. And reality, my reality, my subjective reality at least, the things that I appreciate, the things that I want, the things that nourish me. And because there's nobody else around to take care of me, how to take care of myself. Also, how to pull myself out of those dark nights. And as I say, it's been very difficult at times when I thought I was going to die or I wanted to die because life felt too cruel and too difficult. And nobody cared about me. Or that the people that said they cared about me didn't treat me in a way that I felt was caring. So this is really kind of two topics, but they overlap quite a bit. The one is creating distance from one's family so that one can find their own identity and their own independence, their own ability to care for themselves even though that is very difficult. I think it's also very important. The other is, as I say, curating your, let's say, chosen family, the people, the friends that are around you. And I've also cut off some of those people too. Many of those people. I've chosen not to maintain those friendships. In both cases, with my family and those other people, I haven't made a big deal of it. I've essentially ghosted them. And in general, I don't think that is ideal. But at the same time, I also don't think we owe them an explanation. If we don't intend to have them in our lives, it's probably because there's not good rapport. There's not open communication. There's no trust. So how can one communicate with somebody that there's no rapport and no trust? There's no faith in one's ability, in their ability, the other person's ability to really receive us, to really hear us. We've probably tried before to give them feedback, or we noticed that they didn't seem to really care about us. Maybe their communication style, maybe their state of consciousness felt uncaring or neglectful. And we had a sense, we had an intuition that even if we brought it up, if we brought our complaints up or our preferences, that it wouldn't be received well. So in that case, it's better, I think, to just let them go. Even if they reach out and say, why aren't you messaging me, or why aren't you responding? I think it's better just to not respond at all. If we've come to that place where we don't trust them, or we don't have faith in their ability to really meet us, that we don't really owe them an explanation. Also, in many cases, that person may be behaving in a narcissistic or vampiric way where their intentions are not good, and likely unconsciously they're actually just looking to validate their own negative attitude or assessment of us. Also, I think it's important for us to be able to let them go peacefully and not end it with some kind of conflict and us having said words that we might later regret. Unfortunately, in this case, I think ghosting them actually is the best choice. Because being put on the spot and having to validate our decision may cause us to even conflate or fabricate things. It may just be a gut feeling, and we don't feel like writing an essay about it. We might do that for ourselves. We might write in a journal and really weigh the details of that. We might sit in contemplation. But I think usually in our gut, we know. We need to overcome that tendency to latch on to people and to cling to them as if there's some kind of life preserver, even if it doesn't feel good. If maybe we've even tried to address things, or maybe not. It's just this feeling that we have where we don't trust them anymore. We don't feel safe around them. We don't feel good being with them. We need to have faith that there will be people, and in the meantime, we actually can rely on ourselves. We can be in this spaciousness of solitude. I've spent a lot of time on my own. And even though sometimes it's very painful, in sitting with that pain and going through that, there's actually a profound transformation that takes place. When we realize that perhaps it's not about guilt or blame, it's just about us wanting to evolve and transform and curate a new life for ourselves. And that includes new people, new connections and environments, new tones of rapport. In this time of the year, the autumn, I think this is the time to really reflect on what we want to let go of. And it doesn't need to be about pushing away. It can just be about releasing, letting go. Just like the leaves of deciduous trees gently letting go and falling to the ground. So instead of pushing these people away, we can just stop creating that relationship, putting effort into it, putting energy into it, and just withdraw our energy back into ourselves, just like all the plants draw their energy back into their roots. It's a kind of retracting into our core. I think this is very healthy and important. A kind of pruning of the connections that may not be nourishing us, may be more of a liability. We're not obligated to be in relationships. I think this is, as I said, a very tender, nuanced subject because sometimes we are too quick to want to cut off people if we might have conflict with them. And that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I think we should actually be able to have conflict with people that we have relationships with. But in my definition, relationship means a point of agreement. And if we can't find that point of agreement in our contemplation, then that relationship is on shaky ground. We should ask ourselves, what is this point of connection? Is it because they're an activity partner that we enjoy? We enjoy doing that activity with them? Or we have a business with them? Or something like that that we do want to preserve? Then if there is some kind of connection that we do want to preserve, then we might fight for that relationship. We might put effort into overcoming the challenges and build more rapport. One of the primary reasons for relationship is motivated by love. And my definition of love means is unconditional positive regard. That means suspending judgment. And this is a choice. Love is a choice. And sometimes it's easy when we're focusing solely on the aspects of somebody that we like. It's easy to not be negatively judgmental of them, although we still are judging them. And so I don't even really consider that love when we're just looking at a bunch of attributes that we really like. I think love is non-judgment, allowance. So if we're able to hold that intention when thinking about and observing somebody, then that relationship is worth preserving. But if when we think about them, we feel judgment and we feel dislike or disdain, then it's actually much better to let them go. But we really should contemplate the potential value of working through those issues. I made those calculations. I weighed those things out. And for example, with my family, I had a lot of imaginary conversations with them. And each time I felt like they wouldn't receive what I was saying, I found it very difficult to even put into words in my visualization mentally how to express to them my needs and my complaints. I think it's because I tried that in the past, and every time they refuted those and they refused to take any responsibility for that. They didn't hear me. They didn't recognize my feelings. And often I would find myself just burying my feelings just to be in their presence. And at a certain point, many times I've felt great resentment towards them. So finally, I decided that I would just essentially ghost them and not elaborate as to why I was disconnecting from them. Because ultimately, I don't want to blame them. I don't want to make them feel bad. I just don't want to be exposed to their toxicity and their, in my mind, immaturity. I feel I've put a lot of work into becoming a better, more enlightened person, and they haven't. They've stagnated and they refuse to grow. They're not open to feedback. So this is my life, and I have to do my best to curate that. And that includes the thoughts that I have about people. I don't want to be carrying around negative thoughts about people. So truly letting go means letting go of our judgments of them. We can draw that line and say we don't want them in our life. And it doesn't really need an argument. It doesn't need that we have a list of complaints. We don't need to go there with them or even ourselves, other than to feel that we can make that choice. if maybe it's just a gut feeling, or maybe there is a clear rationale. I have both, but I don't want to dwell on the bullet points, on the rationale, on the intellectualization of it, because that really takes me out of a heart-centered, gut-centered place that is really much more about me than it is about them. I just want to feel good. I just want to feel centered, empowered, strong, and independent. And that is my right. It's my right to make whatever decisions I need to make to curate my life. Again, not out of resentment, but out of love for myself. Not judging myself for my personal choices, my desires. Sometimes these intuitions come from a deep place within us. We might not even be able to explain it to ourselves. We may doubt our own decisions. We may feel bad about our decisions. But we really should allow ourselves to make these choices if it's what feels right. And we need to dive deep into our awareness and not be so intellectual about it. If our gut is saying this is what we need, then we should really pay heed to that. Maybe we don't take immediate action to cut anything, but we just withdraw our energy from those relationships that don't feel healthy and supportive. You have this right to curate your own life and trust that you can be by yourself for a time, and that is actually quite good for us, because in that spaciousness we can find our true voice and excavate from deep within us parts of ourselves we were unfamiliar with. So I invite you to take the time to introspect and feel into these connections and relationships that you have, and trust your inner guidance about whether you want to maintain them or not. Be well. Thanks for watching.